Welcome to a special bonus edition of the Crosstalk Cafe.
We are so glad you are here with us.
Yeah, we really are. Today, we are stepping outside of our usual step studies to talk about a situation every single one of us will face in recovery. Because, what do you do when someone you love is in an absolute crisis? I hate seeing the people I love in pain. My immediate instinct is to grab my mental toolbox and start handing out advice, trying to assemble a quick solution so they stop hurting.
It is such a natural reaction, but in recovery, we learn that reaching for the toolbox usually just makes the other person feel worse. When we try to fix someone's crisis, we unintentionally shame them, making them feel like their pain is a problem to be solved instead of a reality to be lived through. Galatians calls us to carry each other's burdens, not magically make them disappear. Today, let's talk about the hardest, most beautiful discipline in our community, learning how to just sit in the mess with someone.
Yeah, sitting in the mess. It is so incredibly difficult to do, right?
Yeah.
Because we are completely wired to solve things. When we see a problem, we want to fix it.
Oh, absolutely. We are problem-solving creatures. But what is so fascinating and honestly deeply challenging is that the very instinct we rely on to be a good friend is often the exact thing that pushes people away.
Right. We think we are helping.
We do. But reaching for that toolbox, like you said, it usually just creates this massive wall between us and the person who is suffering.
So let's get into this because this conversation is entirely focused on a very specific idea. It is about how to help someone in crisis without fixing or shaming them.
Without fixing or shaming. Those are the two big traps.
Yeah, and we are going to philosophically and practically look at those concepts today. The idea of a crisis, the urge to fix it, and the danger of shaming. We want to understand what true support really looks like when we strip away all our default behaviors. But I have to push back right out of the gate here.
Go for it.
Because I think anyone listening is probably feeling this exact dilemma. When someone you care about is just falling apart, your chest tightens, your heart races, and you want to end their suffering. So why on earth is trying to fix it the wrong move? I mean, are we just supposed to stand there and do nothing?
That is the perfect question to start with. It really is. To understand why fixing is the wrong move, we have to recognize the difference between a practical problem and a true emotional crisis. When we try to fix a crisis, we are totally misdiagnosing the situation.
Okay, let's talk about that difference, because in my head, a crisis just feels like, a really, really big problem.
Right, it seems like it's just a matter of scale,
Mm-hmm.
but they are completely different realities. A practical problem is mechanical. If a pipe bursts under your kitchen sink, that is a problem. It has a clear, linear solution. You need a wrench, some plumber's tape, maybe a bucket.
Yeah, and maybe a professional if you're me.
Exactly.
Mm.
And if a friend comes over and says, hey, let me show you how to tighten that valve, they're fixing the problem.
Mm.
And you aren't emotionally scarred by them stepping in with a wrench.
Right. I am incredibly grateful. I am not standing in my flooded kitchen saying, please do not impose your plumbing solutions on my personal journey.
Exactly. You want the fix. Because the burst pipe doesn't threaten your core identity or your sense of safety in the world or your spiritual equilibrium. But a crisis is entirely different. A crisis like the sudden end of a marriage, a devastating medical diagnosis, or just completely falling apart emotionally. It shatters a person's foundational understanding of their reality.
Shakes everything.
It does. In a true crisis, the situation often cannot be fixed with a quick solution or a logical strategy because the broken thing isn't a pipe. It's their sense of reality.
That makes so much sense. The urge to provide unsolicited advice or lay out some five-step action plan is just a massive mismatch for what they're actually going through. It is like trying to use a mathematical equation to heal a broken heart. It is just the wrong language.
Precisely. When someone is in the depths of a crisis, they're not looking for a consultant to optimize their life. They're looking for an anchor. They are adrift in this terrifying storm. When we rush in with our toolboxes offering immediate solutions, we are missing the depth of their reality. We're treating a profound wound of the heart as if it were just a minor inconvenience.
Wow. Yeah, that is a hard truth. But it brings us to a really uncomfortable question. Why do we do this?
Oh, this is the hard part.
Yeah, I feel like you are about to step on my toes a bit here. Let's hear it.
Well, we tell ourselves we are fixing things for their sake, right? We say, I just love them so much, I can't bear to see them hurting. I am giving them this advice because I care.
Right. That is absolutely what I tell myself.
But if we are really honest and in recovery, we have to be rigorously honest. The fixer mentality is rarely about the person in the crisis. More often than not, it is about us. It is a defense mechanism.
Okay, ouch. How is my trying to help a defense mechanism?
Because sitting with someone else's unresolved, messy, agonizing pain makes us deeply uncomfortable. When we see someone we love in distress, we feel anxiety. We feel helpless. And if there's one thing we despise, it is feeling helpless. We want to feel capable. We want to feel in control.
So, by offering a solution, we regain a sense of control over the situation.
Exactly. We're essentially saying, if I can solve this for you, then I don't have to feel anxious anymore. We rush to solve the problem to relieve our own anxiety, not theirs. Their pain disrupts our peace, so we try to extinguish their pain to restore our peace.
Man, that is incredibly selfish when you put it like that.
It is a subtle, entirely unconscious form of selfishness,
Yeah.
wrapped up in the guise of helping. And honestly, it is a subtle form of trying to play God in someone else's life.
Oh, wow. Playing God. That is exactly what it is.
Yeah, we assume we have the wisdom and the authority to declare how this suffering should end, simply because we cannot tolerate the tension of the suffering existing in our presence.
That is heavy. We are literally using their crisis to manage our own emotional discomfort. Let's try to make this concrete for you listening right now. Imagine someone you love is suddenly trapped in a dark, unfamiliar, freezing cold room. There are no windows, the lights are out, and they are absolutely terrified.
That is a terrifying place to be.
It really is. Now, the fixer, the person managing their own anxiety, stands safely outside the room in the warm hallway. They have a megaphone and they are shouting directions through the door. Feel the wall! Have you tried looking for a switch? Just keep walking around until you find the knob.
That is such a vivid picture, because the person with the megaphone truly believes they are being incredibly helpful. They are offering solutions. They aren't ignoring the person in the dark room.
Right, but think about how the person inside the room actually feels. They're still in the dark, they're still freezing, they're still terrified. But now, on top of all of that, they feel entirely alone and misunderstood, being yelled at by someone who has no idea how scary it actually is in there.
The advice from the megaphone might even be logically sound. Maybe feeling the wall is the right move, but it is completely empty. True support is not about transmitting correct information. It is about establishing a connection. The megaphone approach creates this huge distance.
Yeah, it communicates, I am out here in the safety and the light, and you are in there in the dark, and I will interact with you, but only from a safe distance. It protects the fixer from the reality of the mess.
And I want you, the listener, to think about this right now. Think about the last time you were entirely overwhelmed. A time when the bottom just fell out of your world and you didn't know how you were going to make it through the week.
We have all been there.
We have. Did you want someone to hand you a rigidly structured action plan? Or did you just want someone to look you in the eyes, acknowledge how incredibly hard it was, and assure you that you were not alone?
We all crave that presence. We just want validation. Yet we so rarely offer it because it requires us to tolerate the discomfort of the unresolved. And the danger of the fixer mentality isn't just that it is ineffective. It is significantly worse than that. The urge to fix actually inflicts secondary emotional damage. Which leads us right into the second big trap, the absolute danger of shaming.
Yes, let's get into the shaming trap, because these two things are completely intertwined. When we step in with unsolicited fixes, those very fixes become the vehicle for unintentional shaming. We have to look at the underlying message that is received by the person in crisis.
Okay, let's set up a scenario. Let's say a friend comes to me, absolutely devastated because their long-term marriage just unexpectedly fell apart. They are crying, they can't sleep, they can't eat. And I, acting as the fixer, say, you just need to get back out there. Focus on your hobbies. The best way to get over this is to stay busy.
Okay, let's dissect that. From your perspective as the fixer, you are offering a logical, forward-moving solution. But what is the implicit message your friend receives? By offering such a simple, breezy solution to their profound agony, you are accidentally signaling to them this is actually an easy problem to solve.
Oh, wow.
And if the problem is easy to solve, what does that say about them for being so devastated by it?
The logical conclusion they have to draw is, if this is so easy to fix, there must be something deeply wrong with me for falling apart. I must be weak or foolish or pathetic for not just finding a hobby and moving on.
Exactly. You have inadvertently weaponized their own pain against them. By minimizing the complexity of their crisis with a quick fix, you have communicated that their emotional reaction is disproportionate or invalid. You have introduced shame.
And we really need to clearly distinguish between guilt and shame here, right? Because they aren't the same thing at all.
No, they are vastly different. Guilt is the feeling that you did something bad. Shame is the deeply internalized belief that you are bad. It is a fundamental flaw in your being. When someone is in a crisis, their spirit is already incredibly fragile. When a well-meaning friend offers a quick fix, it bypasses guilt and goes straight to shame. You have inadvertently told them that their inability to immediately resolve their crisis is a failure of character.
This happens all the time with what we call toxic positivity, doesn't it? The platitudes we toss out because we don't know what else to say, and we feel compelled to fill the awkward silence.
Yes, and this is especially rampant in our faith communities. We use well-meaning Christian platitudes that actually create immense shame.
Oh man, let's talk about the Christian platitudes because we hear them all the time in recovery and they can be so destructive.
They really can. Someone is weeping over a profound loss, and a well-meaning believer pats him on the back and says, well, just pray more, or God has a plan, or the most famous one, God won't give you more than you can handle.
Oh, I cringe when I hear that last one. God won't give you more than you can handle. That is not even what the Word of God actually says in context, first of all.
Right. The verse in 1 Corinthians is about temptation, not about suffering. But people use it for suffering all the time.
And think about what that does to a person who is currently being crushed by their circumstances.
Yeah.
If they are feeling completely overwhelmed and you tell them, God won't give you more than you can handle, what is the immediate logical conclusion they draw?
They think, well, I am clearly not handling this. I am falling apart. Therefore, I must be a failure. My faith must be incredibly weak. I am letting God down. It makes a person feel like their crisis is a failure of faith.
It is so incredibly damaging. It takes a person who is already carrying a massive burden of grief or pain, and it throws a boulder of spiritual shame right on top of it.
It does. It isolates them even further because now they feel like they can't even be honest about their pain. Otherwise, they look like a bad Christian.
And what about just pray more? I mean, obviously, prayer is foundational for us. We believe in prayer, but using it as a quick fix in the middle of a crisis, how does that land?
It lands like a dismissal. It sounds like you are saying, your pain is making me uncomfortable, so go talk to God about it instead of me.
Yeah.
And again, it implies that if they were just praying correctly or praying hard enough, they wouldn't be hurting. It completely denies the reality that we live in a broken world where painful things happen, even to people who pray constantly.
It's a way of policing their emotions. We are subtly demanding that they perform well in their suffering. We want them to show spiritual resilience right now so that we don't have to carry the heavy atmosphere of their grief.
Exactly. And think about the compound effect of this on the sufferer. The person in crisis is now burdened twice. First, they still have the original devastating situation to deal with. But now, thanks to the well-meaning fixer throwing out platitudes, they carry a secondary emotional weight. The feeling of being spiritually inadequate and isolated. The supporter, trying to offer a quick fix of comfort, has actually pushed the sufferer deeper into the dark.
I hear what you were saying, and the psychology of the shame makes perfect sense, but I have to play devil's advocate here. I want to push back on this quite a bit because I think this is where the average listener is going to get stuck.
Please do. It is a tough concept to wrestle with.
What if the solution actually is obvious to an outsider? What if you are watching a friend in a crisis, making a choice that you know objectively is going to lead them to absolute disaster? Let's say a friend is going through a terrible situation, and in their grief, they are about to make a massive financial mistake just to get it over with quickly. Isn't withholding a potential answer its own kind of betrayal? Are we really just supposed to stand by silently and watch them walk off a cliff in the name of not fixing?
That is the critical tension of this entire philosophy. It is the hardest part to navigate. The answer lies in understanding that timing and emotional safety are everything. Support is not about permanently withholding the truth or allowing someone to destroy their life. It is about prioritizing connection first, so that the person is actually in a place where they can receive the truth without interpreting it as an attack.
Timing. Okay, so if you throw a life preserver at someone before they have even realized they're in the water, it is just going to hit them in the head.
Exactly. When a person is in an acute crisis, their entire being is flooded with overwhelming emotion. They're in pure survival mode. In this state, they physically and emotionally cannot process complex advice or constructive criticism. If you come in hot with, here's what you need to do, don't do that, stop right now, they interpret that authoritative command as an additional threat. They will instinctively raise their defenses. They will feel managed, attacked, and overwhelmed, not supported.
So if I just bark orders at them, even if the orders are to save them from a mistake, I am just adding to the noise of the crisis. I have to create the safety first so they can actually hear me.
Yes, you have to earn the right to speak into their life by first demonstrating that you are a safe harbor. It is about honoring their agency. Think about what a crisis actually does to a person. A crisis strips away a person's illusion of control. Suddenly, life is happening to them. They feel powerless. If we rush in as the fixer and take over, dictating the solution and managing their choices, we are stripping away the tiny bit of agency they have left. We are treating them like a project to be managed rather than a person to be respected.
That is a profound distinction. Treating someone like a project versus treating them like a person. Let me try to synthesize this with another scenario. Imagine someone has a severe physical injury. Let's say they have just tripped and broken their leg. They are lying on the ground in agony. If you walk up to them and say, just try to stay positive, everything happens for a reason, you haven't done a single thing to address the actual trauma. All you have done is make them feel crazy for experiencing the very real physical pain they're in. You have shamed their reality.
It is a complete denial of reality. And true support must always be grounded in reality, no matter how harsh, ugly, or hopeless that reality seems in the moment. You have to validate the pain before you can ever hope to alleviate it.
So, if we are required to completely suppress our natural, deeply ingrained urge to fix things, because it's usually about our own ego, and if we must meticulously avoid the trap of offering platitudes that create shame, what does actual productive support look like? Because we clearly cannot just walk away. We are called to help.
We absolutely are. And the answer lies in what the Word of God tells us to do. In Galatians chapter 6, verse 2, it says, carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ.
Carry each other's burdens. Let's really look at that phrasing, because it doesn't say take each other's burdens away.
That is the crucial distinction that trips everyone up. We see someone carrying a heavy burden, our fixer instinct kicks in, and we think our job is to snatch the burden out of their hands and throw it away. But in life, a burden is often something that simply must be carried. Grief over the loss of a loved one is a burden that must be carried. The ongoing journey of recovery is a burden that must be carried. You cannot magically disappear these things.
Right. If I am carrying a massive, incredibly heavy wooden beam on my shoulder and you come alongside me as a true supporter, you don't magically make the beam vanish into thin air. The weight of the wood is still exactly the same. The distance we have to walk is exactly the same. But if you step up and put your shoulder under the other end of that beam, the weight is distributed. I am still carrying it, but I am no longer being crushed into the dirt by it.
That is the perfect visualization of what Galatians is talking about. Carrying a burden means standing under the weight with them so they aren't alone. It is the ministry of presence.
The ministry of presence, I love that term, because it shifts our focus from doing something to being someone.
Exactly. It shifts from fixing to navigating. Fixing implies an immediate authoritative end to a problem. It suggests a static process. There's a clear start, a clear action, and a clear resolution. Boom, done.
Like flipping a switch, you were broken, I applied the fix, now you are whole.
But navigating a crisis implies an ongoing, fluid, and often unpredictable journey. When you are navigating, you are in motion. You are reading the terrain as you go. You are checking the weather, adjusting your steps, anticipating the obstacles. It requires constant adjustment, immense patience, and a shared assumption of risk. A navigator does not control the storm. They simply help figure out how to walk through the wind without falling over.
A navigator does not control the storm. The fixer looks at the storm and tries to build a wall to stop the wind. The navigator links arms with you and helps you walk through it.
And that requires a completely different skill set. Fixing requires answers. Navigating requires curiosity. Fixing requires authority. Navigating requires humility.
So let's talk about the practical steps here. What does this ministry of presence actually look like on a Tuesday afternoon when your friend calls you in tears? Because it can't just mean sitting in the same room, scrolling on our phones while our friend cries on the couch. That's proximity, not presence.
Right. True presence is the conscious decision to share the emotional load. To say, through your actions, your pain is your own, and I cannot take it away from you, but you will not have to carry it alone. And the practical application of this, the way you actually do this in real life, is surprisingly simple, though incredibly difficult to execute because of our own internal anxiety.
Because we want to jump in and do something.
Yes, but instead of declaring, here's what you need to do, the most powerful practical step you can take is to ask a single question. You ask, what does support look like for you right now?
What does support look like for you right now? Let's pause and highlight that. Why is that specific phrasing so incredibly effective?
Because it immediately gives agency entirely back to the person in crisis. Remember, a crisis robs people of control. By asking them what support looks like, You are putting them back in the driver's seat of their own life. You are honoring their dignity. You are telling them, I am a safe person who is not going to overwhelm you with my own agenda.
And their answer to that question might be wildly different depending on the day or even the hour.
Exactly. Sometimes the answer is highly practical. They might say, I need you to help me make some phone calls because every time I try, I start shaking and crying. If they ask for that, then your logistical help is no longer fixing against their will. It is navigating together because they invited you to do it.
Right, it's consensual support.
Consensual support. I love that.
Yeah.
Sometimes the answer is purely emotional. They might say, I just need you to sit on the couch with me and watch a stupid television show so the house isn't so terrifyingly quiet. And sometimes, perhaps most often in the beginning, the answer is, I have absolutely no idea what I need.
And what does the navigator do when the person in crisis says, I don't know, because that is where I usually panic and start handing out advice again?
Your response to that is completely okay. You don't have to know right now. I am just going to sit here with you while you figure it out, and then you actually sit there. You tolerate the silence. You tolerate the awkwardness. You tolerate your own urge to offer a platitude.
Let's go back to our darkroom analogy from earlier. The fixer stood safely in the warm hallway with a megaphone, shouting directions through the door. It created distance and shame. But true support, the ministry of presence, looks completely different. True support is putting down the megaphone. It is opening the door to the dark room. It is walking into the cold and the shadows yourself. It is finding the person huddles in the corner, sitting down right next to them and saying, I don't know the way out either. It is really dark in here. I am scared too, but I am not leaving and we are going to figure it out together.
That is the absolute essence of support without shame. You are acknowledging the darkness without trying to paint it bright colors. You are not minimizing their fear. You are validating it. And most importantly, you are sharing the risk. You are abandoning the safety of the hallway to join them in the dark.
And that requires immense vulnerability from us, doesn't it? Walking into the dark room means we have to be willing to feel the dark, too. We have to be willing to feel sad, to feel helpless, to feel the crushing weight of their despair. We have to completely lower our own psychological defenses. We can't use our solutions as a shield anymore.
It is the ultimate act of abandoning the ego. Our egos desperately want to be the hero. The ego wants to swoop in, save the day with a brilliant piece of advice, dry their tears, and receive gratitude. The discipline of radical presence asks us to lay down the need to be the hero and instead choose the much less glamorous, much more difficult role of being a companion.
It is about being a witness to their pain. And honestly, it means reminding them that they are loved by you, and more importantly, reminding them that they are loved by Jesus Christ, simply by being a reflection of his presence in their life.
Yes, Jesus wept with Mary and Martha before he did anything else. He sat in the mess with them. He felt their grief.
That is such a powerful reminder. Doing that, though, requires us to manage our own internal triggers. Because when someone is angry about a crisis, they might lash out. They might be unreasonable. They might reject your initial attempts to sit with them. If you are operating from your ego, you will get defensive and say, fine, I was just trying to help, and you'll walk away.
Which just proves that your help was always about you.
Boom. If you get mad that they didn't accept your help the way you wanted them to, your help was performative.
Exactly. When you are truly navigating with someone, you recognize that their anger or their withdrawal is just a symptom of their pain. You don't take it personally. You stay steady. You become the emotional anchor they can pull against until they realize you aren't going to break.
I think we need to talk about the sheer endurance required for this, too. Because fixing implies speed. We like fixes because they are fast. Navigating a crisis together might take months. It might take years.
This is a vital point. The timeline of a crisis almost always outlasts the endurance of the supporters. In the first week of a tragedy, everyone is there. The casseroles are delivered, the text messages are constant, everyone is highly mobilized.
Everyone wants to be part of the initial response team.
Right, because it feels good. But by week 3 or month 3, the casseroles stop. The texts fade away. Because the crisis is no longer novel and the supporters' anxiety has subsided, they've gone back to their normal lives. But the person in the crisis is still carrying the heavy beam.
Which is why the discipline of navigating together is a commitment, not an event. It means checking in on a random Tuesday 6 months later and saying, hey, I know today might be really hard and I'm just here. It means recognizing that the anniversary of the crisis is going to trigger all that pain all over again and making sure you are sitting on the couch with them when it happens.
It is a continuous daily discipline of catching yourself when you reach for the toolbox.
Mm.
Because the urge to fix never truly goes away. You will always have that impulse. The practice is noticing when you are about to offer a platitude, stopping yourself, taking a deep breath to regulate your own anxiety, and simply saying, I am so incredibly sorry you are going through this. I am here.
I am here. Those might be the three most powerful words you can ever offer someone in a crisis. Not, I know exactly how you feel, because honestly, you don't. Their pain is entirely unique to them. Not, it will get better soon, because you don't know the future and you can't guarantee that. Just, I am here.
It reminds them that they are seen, they're valued, and their pain is not too ugly, too heavy, or too complicated to scare you away. It provides the profound safety required for their heart and mind to slowly, eventually begin to process what happened.
So the irony is, by refusing to fix them, we actually create the environment where they can begin to heal.
That is the ultimate paradox of this entire conversation. You cannot push someone toward healing. You can only provide the safe environment in which their own natural resilience can begin to take root. Healing requires safety. Fixing creates threat. Navigating creates safety.
As we bring our time together today to a close, let's distill what we have really learned from this. We set out to understand how to help someone in crisis without fixing or shaming. And what we have discovered is a profound, challenging truth about human connection, our faith, and the nature of true empathy.
We learned that true support requires us to rigorously examine and ultimately abandon our own egos. We must recognize that our deeply ingrained, almost automatic urge to fix someone else's problem is very often rooted in our own discomfort, our own anxiety, and our desperate desire for control in a chaotic world. When we try to fix, we distance ourselves from the messy reality of their pain. And when we offer quick solutions or well-meaning platitudes, we inadvertently create a heavy burden of shame, making the person feel weak or inadequate for struggling with something we imply should be easy to overcome.
Instead, we are called to a much higher, much harder, and much slower standard of care. We must resist the comfortable urge to manage the crisis from the outside. We must put down the megaphone. We must embrace the difficult, beautiful, ego-destroying discipline of the ministry of presence. We are called to stand under the weight of the heavy beam together, sharing the reality of the darkness without demanding immediate light. By choosing to navigate the unpredictable journey together, side by side, we eliminate the sting of shame, we honor their agency, and we offer the truest, most enduring form of support: genuine connection.
It always comes down to connection over correction.
Connection over correction. I want you, the listener, to let that phrase ring in your ears. So, before we sign off, I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to ponder independently as you go about your week. The next time someone you care deeply about comes to you in the midst of a crisis, and they will, I want you to pause and take a hard, honest look at your own internal motivations before you speak a single word. Ask yourself, are you truly trying to end their pain, or are you just trying to end your own discomfort with their pain? What would happen if, instead of reaching for your toolbox, you simply chose to sit in the terrifying, messy reality with them, without trying to change a single thing?
That is a question that requires lifelong practice to answer honestly.
It certainly does. Thank you all so much for joining us for this special bonus conversation at the Crosstalk Cafe. We want to warmly invite you to join our community here at Peters Creek Baptist Church in South Park, Pennsylvania.
We would love to see you on a Friday night. Our weekly schedule starts at 6:30 p.m. with large group worship.
Then, from 7:30 to 8:30 p.m., we have our gender-specific small groups.
And finally, from 8:30 to 9 p.m., we have the Crosstalk Cafe.
And don't forget about dinner. On the final Friday of each month only, we serve dinner from 5:15 to 6 p.m. The next dinner will be held on Friday, May 29th, 2026.
We do have some new costs to share for the dinner. For adults, it is $5. For youth ages 6 to 17, it is $3. Children 5 years and under eat for free, and there is a $25 family max.
And the menu for that night is going to be fantastic. We are having seasoned ground beef and chicken tacos with your choice of soft tortillas or hard shells, cilantro rice, seasoned black beans, and chips and salsa. Toppings include lettuce, tomato, shredded cheese, salsa, and sour cream.
If you are not local to us, please find a Celebrate Recovery near you by heading to crlocator.com and entering your zip code.
For any questions, you can email Craig Amstone at craig.amstone@gmail.com or contact the church office at info@pcbc.church.
Keep questioning your assumptions. Keep exploring the ways we connect with each other. And remember to just sit in the mess.
Remember, when the people you love are trapped in the dark, don't just shout directions from the outside. Have the courage to walk in and sit beside them. We will see you next time.